get the books. This is embarrassing. This is ridiculous. Did I really read all these? I feel like I blacked out for the month of May. Hi there, guys. Let's talk about what happened in May. And what happened was I read 25 books, which is the most I have read probably since I was a teenager. This isn't even all of them because I read a lot on Kindle Unlimited. Let's see. Ugh. Okay, so like I said, I read 25 books in the month of May, but a lot of those were novellas, and I did have some graphic novels, which kind of makes things a little bit speedier. If you watched my April wrap-up, then I talked about how I was reading through the Chestnut Springs series by Elsie Silver. In April, I read the first 2 books, which were Flawless and Heartless, and then in May, I read Powerless, Reckless, and Hopeless. This was such a good series. Really could not say better things about it. It is a cowboy romance that is based in a small town, and there are several famous athletes that are in the books, and then all different like interconnected love stories that were just really enjoyable to read. There was some really great family dynamics. I loved it a lot. My favorite book in the series was the second one, which was Heartless, and my least favorite was Powerless, which is the 3rd book in the series. This one is off of a famous hockey player, and there were just some things about this book that I didn't love. It was very spicy compared to the other ones, and the specific type of spice it was really not enjoyable. My other least favorite one was the 5th one, which was Hopeless, and this is about somebody from the military who leaves service. This was a really good series. I totally recommend it, and I loved it a lot. It's all on Kindle Unlimited. Next, I read the Loathe to Love You collection of novellas by Ali Hazelwood. So this has Under One Roof, Stuck With You, and then Below Zero, and these are all little standalone novellas that are interconnected in the end, which I loved. I talked about this last month, but I truly feel like the perfect length romance book is approximately 100 to 120 pages. I feel like it is everything you need. You don't get bored. There's nothing stressful or weird going on. I think it's perfect. So this was such a joy to read. I don't really rate books the way other people pretty much just have a 5-star rating or a 3-star rating or a 1-star rating. And this was a 5-star. I loved each of them. My favorite one was Under One Roof, and I read this entire thing in one night because it was so good. This is a group with 3 female friends who are obviously all women in STEM and talking about their relationship problems, and it's just so good. I feel like I could say that about pretty much all of Ali Hazelwood's book other than Bride, but it's a women in STEM book, and I had a great time reading it. I read Swift and Saddled. Now, if you watched any of my vlogs from this month, you will know how I feel about this book. 5-star, 1-star. I am really not loving the Rebel Blue series. I didn't like Done and Dusted very much. This one, even worse for me personally. I really do not understand what people enjoy about this book, especially if you have read Elsie Silver's books, because it is basically, this is just like regurgitated but worse. It is such similar family dynamics. The story is all so much the same, just not as well done. I know people really like the covers, and I know these are getting turned into a show, and I think they would make really good shows, but as an actual book, it's not very good. The writing isn't very good, and I have a hard time saying that. So 1-star. If you read Done and Dusted, this is about one of her brothers finding love while they are renovating to put a guest bed and breakfast on their ranch. I'm excited for the next one. I mean, excited is a strong word. I am interested and will be reading the 3rd one. That's the better way to put it. I'm interested and will be reading the 3rd one because of the characters that it is off of. I think that one has potential to be the most interesting in the series. I'm going to read it, but I do not recommend this book unless you want to read it so that you can talk about it with me, so I can find other people who don't like this book. I would be interested in that. Okay, next I read Wild Love by Elsie Silver. This is the 1st book in her new series. This is the brother of the main female character in the Heartless book, which was the 2nd one I said was my favorite. This is also quite long. This is a 452-page romance book, and I just previously mentioned I think the perfect length for a romance book is 120 pages. Oh, my bread timer is off. Hang on. I'm back, so sorry. Had to take my bread out of the oven. This book was simply too long, and I didn't find the relationship between the 2 main characters very believable. The main male character is a billionaire, and the main female character is his best friend's little sister. Like, reading it, I was just like, I don't really believe that you guys are in love with each other. This is fake news. The main male character donated sperm previously in his life when he was like 18. And he has a daughter who comes to meet him and lives with him for a little bit. And that relationship was just so precious, so interesting. I cared way more about that than I did about the actual love interest in this book. And I would have way preferred to read more about the father-daughter blooming relationship than I did about the male character and the female main character. And so that was kind of a bummer to me. And also I felt like the female main character was getting better bonding time with his daughter than he actually was. The next book I read was the first book in the Percy Jackson series, The Lightning Thief. This was one of my favorite series growing up. I was absolutely obsessed with the books and the movies, and so since I just finished reading Harry Potter through, I wanted to go back and read the Percy Jackson series, and I just love it so incredibly much. This is so good and so nostalgic, and I love the Greek mythology element. I also just love the representation he does for kids that have ADHD or dyslexia, and I think it's so cool to make it feel a lot more fantastical. 5 stars, loved it. Oh, also this is a 3-star. Next I read Powerful by Lauren Roberts, which is the little novella that was based off of Powerless that came out last year. This is based off of Peyton's best friend, Adina. And if you read Powerless, you know what this book is about and what happens at the end of this book. And it was just so crushing. And I kind of felt like really hopeless reading this. Like, what was the point? What's the point of life? What's the point of doing this when I know what's going to happen? Certainly I know what's going to happen, and it really crushed me. I did enjoy this one more than I enjoyed Powerless, perhaps because it was short and it was just like a little romance. Not very much fantasy in this, I feel like, but glad I read it. The next book comes out in like 2 or 3 months, I think. The next book I don't have with me. I read a quick little novella, which is part of the Valentine's Meet Cute series that they put on Kindle Unlimited, and I read The Worst Wingman Ever. I don't remember who it's by. I will put a picture of it on here. And this one really got me. I actually read this while I was on the treadmill a few weeks ago because I needed something quick and easy to digest because I didn't have that much attention span to put into a fantasy. And this one really crushed me. The main character is a hospice nurse for her grandma who is dying, and my great grandma is currently in hospice, so this one made me very sad, but the ending was super funny and I did really enjoy this novella. I think it was about 60 pages. Next I read Funny Story by Emily Henry. I'm sure everybody and their mom know what this book is about, and I'm sure most of you have read it. I've seen a lot of mixed reviews on this book, but I personally loved it. What I will say is that all of Emily Henry's books were a one-day read for me. I started them and finished them in the same day. This one took me 2.5 weeks to read. I don't think that has anything against the story. I think that's just where my head was at the moment. But I would give this a 5-star. It was really good. I absolutely adored the both of the main characters, and I had such a good time reading it. And I thought it was funny, and I kind of liked sticking it to the man being the main character's exes. This is about 2 characters who become roommates with each other because their exes are getting married, and now they're living together, and then obviously the romancing happens, and it was so good, and I just loved Miles so much, and I thought this book was really funny, and I did underline several parts throughout the book because I enjoyed it a lot. I still think that my favorite Emily Henry book is The People We Meet on Vacation, because I think that is the funniest. I'm really here for a good time. That one made me laugh the most. This one is probably my 3rd favorite. I believe it would go People We Meet on Vacation, Book Lovers, Funny Story, Happy Place, and then my least favorite is Beach Read, personally. Oh, yes. Yes, I read The Love Hypothesis by Ali Hazelwood, and this book really was just incredible. Why did I wait so long to read this? I don't know. I actually just got the book in, so I wasn't waiting. I just didn't have the book, and I got it in this month, and I read this in one night. I put the kids to bed at 8. I think I finished this book by like 2, and it was my favorite, my 2nd favorite Ali Hazelwood book. It's about a woman in STEM. And it's just, I don't know. I can't even explain this book, but it is so good. And there is a part in here that made me so angry and so upset it was, I can't even describe. I have no words for this book because it was incredible. 5-star. Oh, funny story was also 5-star. So good, guys. I give 5-star away like it's candy. Like, hey, do you want a peppermint? 5-star. Do you know, like, it's not a big deal to me. I rate so many books 5 stars. I just appreciate the author's effort, and as long as I feel like it's a good story, it gets a 5-star, and this one certainly was a 5-star. And then after that, I read The Hemlock Queen. This is the sequel to The Foxglove King, which I did read last year, and there is another book coming out probably next year at some point. I can't remember what that one's called, but this is I don't really know how to explain this book. But there's definitely like a love triangle in it, and the first book was not that great. I like don't even really remember the first book. It was kind of a fever dream for me. What happened? It took me a while to get into the second one because I just honestly didn't even remember the first one that well, and I had to go back and read like a synopsis somebody wrote on it just so I could kind of get back into the setting. I think part of the reason was I listened to the first book on Audible and I didn't love the narrator, and if it's a bad narrator, I just don't care about the book. But I read the actual book for this one. It's on Kindle Unlimited, and this was actually so enjoyable. I went from dreading reading this book but being like, I'm just gonna get through it, to being genuinely so excited for the third book. She did such a good job with this one, and it was totally crushing. I don't want to give you any spoilers, but there is a character in this book whose brain, whose consciousness is being taken over by an outer power, if you will. And it gave very big Dorian vibes from the Throne of Glass series, and it is just crushing, and like it's almost like watching a character die. Like you're just losing them a little bit every day, and it is so compelling, and I was so excited, and I like genuinely cannot wait for the third book because this one was so good. I remember one of the reasons why I hated listening to the audiobook of it is because one of the characters in the first book, his name was August, and it's spelt August. It's spelt like the month, but the narrator kept calling him Auguste, which perhaps the author like told her, depending on where this series is like based, and it maybe that's how it was pronounced. But here August is pronounced August, and she was pronouncing it Auguste, and all I could think of was Augustus Gloop from Willy Wonka, and I was not interested in it. Okay, next I read Happily Never After by Lynn Painter, and I am sad to talk about this one because Lynn Painter is my favorite romance author, I think. It's between Allie, Lynn, and Emily Henry. I like love Lynn Painter's books, and this one was just so mid. This is one of her adult books, which I don't prefer. I way prefer her YA. I think they're so hilarious and so addicting, and this one was just like very much a 3-star. Like this could have been called like, read this, it's a 3-star, because like that's just genuinely what it is. A main character who is getting married, and then she hires somebody to come and be an objector and just be like, I object, you can't get married, and then they start doing it together, and then obviously they fall in love, and it just was not very believable. In the end they end up getting married, and I'm just like, the entire book you were talking about how you hate marriage, and suddenly you're married, and I don't know, this book was just really did nothing for me, which I'm kind of bummed about. I do like Lynn Painter's adult books. This one was by far my least favorite. It was not very good. Okay, next I decided I wanted to finish the collection of novellas that were on Kindle Unlimited, the meet cute ones. So I read With Any Luck. And this one, there's a book that came out by Abby Jimenez, and it's called like Just for the Summer or something. It's about 2 characters, I believe, who are like cursed, and they feel like whoever they break up with, the next person they find is like their soulmate. And this was very similar to that. The main character, whoever she kisses, they find their true love the next day, and so she is like loveless, but there's this person who's in love with her, and they slept together at one point but they didn't kiss, and then now he's trying to like, I don't know, it's kind of a confusing plot. It wasn't that great, but I mean, it was like 40 or 50 pages, so it was fun to read, and I'm glad I read through the entire collection, but I couldn't even really tell you about what the book is about. I think her male best friend is getting married. She's the best man. The next one in the collection was Drop, Cover, and Hold On, and this one was so cute. It is about the main character who goes to this bakery that she absolutely loves, and she thinks the chef just absolutely despises her, but he actually like loves her, and he sneaks free pastries into her boxes all the time. She ends up going in on Valentine's Day, and there ends up being an earthquake, and they're trapped together, and by bada boom, they fall in love, and it is so cute. This one was really adorable, and I recommend that one. And then I read Rosie and the Dreamboat. It's about two sisters who go to a spa together, and they go into this like sensory deprivation chamber, and one of them gets trapped inside for like the entire day. And so there's a fireman talking to her, trying to keep her calm while she's in this thing for little hours, and then like they fall in love, and it was really adorable. And then the last one was Royal Valentine, and this one is about a princess who just wants to be a normal girl, and then like she ends up meeting somebody, and then gasp, she's a princess. And it was very mid. It was not this one was like, I think, the longest out of the 4 that I read. I read all of those in one night, and this one was just like very okay. It kind of dragged on, which is saying a lot because it was 60 pages and I still felt like, yo, is this over yet? Next, I read Love on the Brain by Ali Hazelwood. This was the last Ali Hazelwood book I had left to read before her new one comes out in a few days. And this one was also really cute. I liked it a lot. I definitely preferred the other 2 I read this month. My least favorite of Ali Hazelwood's books was Love Theoretically, and this one would probably be just above it. But it was still such a good book. I mean, if you compare it to Happily Never After, like this one was just truly incredible, a masterpiece of fine art. I really love it. I really love Ali Hazelwood's main characters. I like it because the two main characters were both vegan, which I thought was really fun. And there is kind of like a shock horror, like a betrayal toward the end of the book that I thought was really good. And I mean, it was predictable, but also this is a romance book. You weren't in it for a mystery or to be thrilled, so just the fact that there was a little something in there was really good, and I enjoyed it. And I really recommend all of Ali Hazelwood's books. I think you should definitely read them, and this one was really cute. The next book I read was A Fat Boy, When the Moon Hatched by Sarah A. Parker. This is the first book in a fantasy series that she is writing, and the second book is not out yet, but I don't even know if I could begin to describe this book to you because there is such a complicated story going on, and the way that she writes the story in the beginning is just so confusing. This is a book where when I go back and read it for a second time, which I probably will eventually, things are just going to make so much more sense. But when you read it for the first time, you're just kind of like, whoa, where am I and what the hell is going on? For starters, in the beginning of the book, there is a like literal 30-page glossary full of pronunciation guides. And then there is a little tale in the beginning of the book giving you a bit of a glimpse into their world, and then you just kind of get started. The thing that's complicated in this book is she changes just standard words, like the word for day, night, sunrise, sunset, married. There is so much going on in the actual magic system as well as learning all these different characters, but then to just change basic vocabulary made it a little bit daunting to try to get into because I just didn't really know what they were talking about for the beginning, and I feel like I pick up books pretty fast. I definitely wasn't in the right headspace to start this book when I started it, but when you get into it, it's really good. It is about a main character who is kind of like an assassin, but then you find out a lot about her history as time goes on, and there ends up being so much drama, and there's journal entries from a character who died a long time ago, and then you find out more about that character as you go. Like, I honestly couldn't even begin to explain this book to you because it would spoil everything, but it is a really good book and I really enjoyed it, and I'm excited for the second one. If I were to describe this book to you in a sentence, it'd be like, whoa, what's going on for 690 pages? But in a good way, in a like, hey, this is still the vibe. Next, I read, oh, this book was so good. I read Wayward by Amelia Hart. I listened to this one as an audiobook. It took me over a month to get through because I would only listen to like an hour or two a week. I just didn't have very much time to devote to audiobooks. But this one is about a family of witches, the Wayward witches, if you will, actually. And it has 3 different POVs from 3 different women in this family that span generations. Okay, so the first one is based in 1619. The second one, the main character, is from 1942, and the third one is from 2019. And it kind of goes over their life, but they're all interconnected, even though they're like obviously generations apart. It was so beautiful. My mom got this book and she read it first, and I love the story. This definitely had a lot of like historical fiction vibes, but there was still a bit of magic in it, and I loved it. And it was also so heartbreaking to read. And this is just one of those books I really love, like historical fiction where the focus is women and like how they were treated back then and how they should have been treated and the things they did to fight the way they were treated. Like, those books are just really powerful to me. and this was definitely one of them. One of the characters is in an abusive relationship. I think my baby just woke up. One of the characters is in an abusive relationship that she worked really hard to get out of, and the other one is under persecution for being a witch, and it's just, yeah, I really recommend that book. It's so good. Next, I read Percy Jackson and the Sea of Monsters. I don't have the book with me because I checked that one out from the library, and oh, it's so good, dude. Oh my gosh. If it were up to me right now, all I would be doing would be reading the Percy Jackson series, but my books are not available from the library, and I don't have the physical copies, which is such a bummer. It is just magic. I just love books I love children's books. They're a passion of mine. They're so good, and the Percy Jackson series especially really holds a special place in my heart. On to the last 4 books. I am reading the Scott Pilgrim graphic novels. Scott and I are doing a book swap at the moment, so I gave him one of my books to read, and he gave me some other books to read, and so he asked if I would read Scott Pilgrim because it's his favorite movie, and he also really loves the comics. So I'm going through them, and I read the first 4. I have 2 left. I do not prefer manga, graphic novels, or comics. I really appreciate description, and in these books it is pretty much exclusively dialogue because it's just characters talking, and also they make my eyes hurt because I'm a very fast reader. Because I'm such a fast reader, I'm kind of like zooming, and then like my eyes are also getting distracted by the pictures, and then I'm like, whoa, I'm supposed to be looking at the pictures because that's where all the description is. It's not in the words, and then I have to go back, and it's a lot for my brain. I mean, like, I've seen the movie, so I know what's happening in these, but there's a bit more detail, there's a bit more twists and turns and descriptions in these than there is in the movie. If you like the movie, you should definitely check these out. The only thing about this is that there are a lot of awards for these comics. Like on the back of them, it shows all the awards that they've won. And it's not that these are bad, but there's just absolutely nothing special to these. I feel like I am definitely not their target audience. This is not my sense of humor. I do not find these books funny in any way. They're just a book to read. I'd probably give them a 3-star because they're not like, wow, this is horrible, 1-star, but they're not like, wow, this is gonna change my life, 5-star. The only thing with these specifically is that anybody could have written this. Genuinely, like, anybody could have written this and gotten the same result. It is not special. It is not, it is not anything special, and I'm not saying that to be mean. I'm just, again, using it as a way to describe it. Like, I feel like I literally could have sat in my room and wrote this dialogue and came up with the exact same thing. Obviously, a lot of what makes a graphic novel special is the art. But here's what I will say is that I'm having a really hard time with these books because they're in black and white, and I cannot tell the characters apart most of the time, especially because one of the main characters, Ramona Flowers, changes her hair, so I'll get used to her looking one way, and then the next book she'll change her hair and then she looks different, and I keep getting confused on who's actually talking, and then I'll have to like go, Scott, who is this again? And he'll be like, oh, that's Julie, and I'm like, okay, that's Julie. Who's this one? And he's like, oh, that's Lisa, and I'm like, okay, that one's Lisa. So that is one of the hardest things I'm having about this book, is that I honestly don't know who's talking half the time. And I also feel like Scott's best friend, what's his name, Wallace, looks just like Knives and also just like Stacy. And then I don't know who's talking, and it really matters, especially when it's Wallace, because that's his, you know, gay best friend. So anyways, I have 2 books left of these. I might try to read them tonight, but I don't hate them. I told Scott I really wanted to read through this whole series though, because I really want to read the Heartstopper collection of graphic novels, and so this was kind of a test to see if I could do it, and I definitely can. It's just kind of a little bit stressful for me trying to like read and look at pictures and keep track of everybody, but yeah, I have 2 more books left, and I'm gonna read them, and then I'll have finished a whole set of graphic novels. That's pretty cool. That's everything that I read in the month of May. It was a lot. I did not sleep a lot this month. I did a vlog where I showed how much I read in a week, and if you watch that, you'll see that I pretty much only read at night once the kids go to bed, but a lot of times what it's looked like is like they go to sleep and I start reading between like 8:30 and 9:30, and then I just do not go to bed till like 2 or 3. So if you want to know how I get so much reading done as a mom, I sacrifice my health for the books. But that's everything I read. Okay, let me know what you read. Let me know if there's any books that I should add based off of what I've enjoyed, because I'm always looking for new recommendations. And I have read through almost all the books that I have in my library, and I'm just kind of like picking up things from Kindle Unlimited. and I'm not very excited about them at the moment. I don't know if you ever feel that way, because obviously like buying books is really expensive, so I try to utilize the Libby app and Kindle Unlimited as much as I can just to make it a lot more affordable. But when I look at Kindle Unlimited right now, I'm kind of like, I've read most of what I want to read on there, so now I'm just left with like the leftovers, and I would like something exciting to pick up and read. So if you have any recommendations for books that I would love, especially things that are like Wayward, where it's kind of historical fiction with a little bit of magic in it, I would love that. So that's everything I have to say. Thank you so much for watching, and yeah, I gotta go. Bye.